TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
call the November 12th Exeter Conservation Commission meeting to order. Let's introduce our meeting, our members, starting to my right.
Valerie Baker.
Andrew Cock.
Dave Short.
Connor Madison.
Sean Torres.
Kyle Welch.
Michelle Crapo.
Keith Whitehouse.
Bill Campbell, alternate.
And Kristen Murphy, Conservation and Sustainability.
We're missing a member tonight. Trevor is out ill. Michelle, would you like to vote tonight?
Sure.
Okay. Public comment not related to any agenda items. Don't see any, so let's move on to, we are looking at an applicant for a wetland conditional use permit and wetland dredge and fill application for a new 51,874 square foot supportive living healthcare center building at 5 White Oak Drive, tax map 97, lot 23. And I believe Eric from Altus is going to make us a presentation.
Yep, for the record, I'm Eric Sowry from,
I would like to recuse myself from this part of the meeting. I'd like to record.
Okay. It looks like it wants to stay. Good enough, we're gonna go with it. Again, I'm Eric Sowry from Altus Engineering. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Riverwoods of Exeter. I have Justine, the CEO of Riverwoods here. I also have Robbie Woodburn from Woodburn and Associates, the landscape architect. Brendan Quigley from Gove Environmental Services, and for legal support and general all-around good looks, I have Sharon Summers from Donahue, Tucker, and Chandela. We are looking at a property off of Kingston Road. I'm sure you guys know, some of you that were there for the site walk. I don't know if you can really see the map, but town's over here, Kingston Road goes down through here, and the property itself straddles 111 on both sides of the road. It's 205 acres total. Currently hosts 3 of Riverwoods campuses now, and a office building known as Campus Crossing, which is right here, right in the middle of the site. Just to get your bearings on this plan, north is this way, over here. This is 111, so town is down here towards the bottom of the screen. The woods on Riverwoods Drive is off to the left, and this is White Oak Drive that goes out to the ridge and the boulders. So this site right now has that aforementioned office complex with a parking area here. Gooch Park is right here on the corner. A couple of pockets of heavily disturbed wetland that Brendan will discuss later on down the line. This is the gas line. The big gas transmission line cuts right through the middle of the site. And this is a currently vacant house that Riverwoods owns. It's currently used for storage. And what we're looking to do, demo. Okay. This is a new healthcare facility. Currently, as I said, Riverwoods has 3 campuses, each with their own independent healthcare facility. This is consolidating all 3 into one purpose-built facility. The footprint's about 51,000 square feet. It's 3 stories and it has a parking garage underneath. We've got surface parking as well here, a few spaces in front, and the main lot across the street here. This site has been constrained by a lot of issues on the site. Number one being about 66% of the entire Riverwoods parcel is in conservation. Obviously, we have the rest of the development already on the site, the 3 campuses that I spoke about. There's a 100-foot buffer that goes around everything, and that's specific to the use. We did go for a variance to try to encroach upon that buffer. We were denied. As a result, you see the plan before you here. It's sort of a condensed version of what we had prior. And I actually think we might have less wetland impact and less buffer impact due to that. We did have to condense the building as well as the site. We also have some site elements to reduce impact, namely some retaining walls, and we have additional steep slopes where needed. I'll just go through, find the sheet I need here. I'll go back. Okay, stormwater is a major concern on a site like this given its size. So what we're looking at is a combination of an underground drainage system and 2 bioretention ponds. We have one bioretention pond here and another one down here, which I'm seeing does not have the color on it that it should, so I'll get that on there. We also have a section of porous pavement directly in front of the building. We looked at underground for everything to try to decrease the footprint, but I can't get the treatment that I need. I can't get enough treatment for phosphorus or nitrogen. So the rain garden, the bioretention pond, was the only way to achieve that, which is why you see this large pond down in here. Everything else meets AOT. It does meet the town standards as well, and we have decreases in peak rates of runoff, and we do have the recharge requirement that we do meet as well. Oh, there we go. Sediment and erosion control, very simple. You know, we've got riprap where we need it, erosion control blankets where we need it, all of which are biodegradable, as well as the stakes that will fasten them. We also have perimeter controls all the way around the site. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's the blue lines all around the construction perimeter and a stabilized construction entrance. Utilities, not so much for you guys. Everything's on water and sewer here, so there's no leach fields or anything like that. Whoops, gotta go back one. Lighting is dark sky compliant. It's all fully downlit LED fixtures. This road going through here is White Oak Drive's already illuminated already, so this is just replacing a lot of light that's there, and then the parking lot and around the perimeter. So it is dark sky compliant. We do have 0 foot candles at the property line per the regulations. And this is the conditional use permit plan. We met this morning for the site walk, and we listened to you guys, and we figured out that we should probably take out the areas that are already impacted by impervious surfaces and other things like that. So we took out houses, gravel shoulders, paths, you know, roads, parking lots, things like that. And it did shop the total amount of buffer impact by about 31,000 square feet, which I think was a great improvement. What I didn't do here is I didn't sort of highlight the other areas that are disturbed, roadway side slopes, things like that, swales that were built, other features that are disturbed but they're not impervious. So I think once you take a look at those, that number of impact would actually reduce. So right now, the new version is about 86,000 square feet of buffer impact. The wetland impact at just a hair over 19,000 did not change. And I think, Brandon, this might be a good spot for you to come up and talk about the wetlands.
Good evening. Brendan Quigley from Gove Environmental Services. I'm a certified wetland scientist in New Hampshire, and I probably shouldn't mess with that anymore. Obviously did the delineation for the project and worked with Eric on some of the documentation. And of course, I was at the site visit this morning, and hopefully that was useful. I think they usually are, particularly in a case like this when, you know, you might not get the sense of what this area actually is until you're out there. So wetlands-wise, we do have the sort of the chain of small segmented areas of forested wetland. These are all connected by small pipes with a general drainage direction to the east and eventually over into Scammon Brook. And the larger wetland system is just south of the site here. Although they are connected and there's clearly a flow path there, there's no really significant surface hydrology in these areas. There's nothing you could call a stream or anything like that. And in fact, you know, really largely dry, just poorly drained soils. You know, meet all the requirements, but you could walk through any of these areas without getting your feet wet. A little bit different case to the north, directly to the north of the project. This is a more substantial wetland, which aside from the road is continuous, you know, through the site, and that really is the headwaters proper of Scammon Brook, which begins, you know, roughly right about or right after the culverts, depending on how you determine a stream channel. But that's really the flow path of Scammon Brook right in the very beginning. That area is wetter, also forested, but you know, more surface hydrology, more areas of standing water during the growing season, and just all around, more connected and less developed. Because these three areas here, in addition to the existing building and parking areas in the roadway, there's a number of paths and, the area pretty much surrounding all of these wetlands is currently maintained lawn. So in terms of the ordinance and in terms of requirements for the state dredge and fill application, which we're here for as well tonight, the overall impacts of the project are viewed significantly through functions and values of wetlands. And I do have a letter, as usual, in the packet, in which I go through the functions and values of these areas. I think all four of the impact areas very similar in terms of their function. There's clearly some water quality function and some flood attenuation, although there's no significant storage in these areas, mostly created by the fact that they're segmented with restricted outlets. And there's not a lot of standing water or emergent vegetation that would really be associated with a higher level of water quality function. But nevertheless, that is present, and that's one of its principal functions. In addition to that, wildlife. These are not large areas of wetland, not particularly well connected to other habitats, but they are pretty densely vegetated in places, and that's good cover for small mammals and songbirds in particular. So differs slightly in the easternmost area, because this is directly connected to that larger wetland. Of course, notably, that's where the smallest impact area is as well. And higher than all those in terms of function would be this area here, which is not being directly impacted, and where buffer impacts are really quite modest, essentially directly adjacent to the roadway. So, in terms of relation to the proposed project and the impacts, clearly there will be some loss of water quality function. I believe that'll be largely mitigated by the proposed stormwater management that's being put in here, which will serve many of the same functions. In terms of habitat, there's not a particularly wetland-specific habitat here to begin with, and it's excuse me, fairly modest because of its nature and the developed area that it sits in. So that's the primary reason why I would conclude that the impacts here to wetlands function and values, even though the impact to the wetlands is admittedly large, the impact to the function and values and to the larger wetland system is fairly insignificant. That would really be also mitigated to some degree, and some of the things we talked about in the site walk, I think we'll probably talk a little bit more about tonight, in the restoration, the removal of this driveway, and some of the other areas of landscaping, as it relates to the edges of the development, because there is some opportunity, for things to be improved. Remember that right now we are dealing with pretty much a park-like maintained area, and there's an opportunity, as well as some landscaping, storage in that area, which we saw, and there's opportunity for improvement there in terms of naturalizing those. And I suspect we'll probably talk a little bit more about that. I'm happy to jump in on any questions, but I think maybe it's a good time to turn to our landscape architect.
Good evening, Robbie Woodburn from Woodburn and Company Landscape Architecture. We've done the landscape plan for the project. The plan we've produced, thank you, is a very straightforward landscape plan. We've buffered the building with shade trees surrounding it. So all around the perimeter of the building, we've used shade trees, as well as in the parking lot. Those shade trees are about 40 feet on center. If you can read the plant list, most of the trees are native. We tried really hard to stay within a native palette, given what we've been doing. We have the gas, as Eric mentioned, the gas line runs up here. It's got a wide easement or area that we could not, but we are not allowed to put trees in there. So in front of the building, in this island, we've put a meadow. So that has two different kinds of meadow seed mix in that. And it will be obviously unmown during the season, then knocked down at the end of the season to keep invasives from coming up, again, keep it tidy and then allow the seeds to germinate and have new plants. We also have, in the rain gardens, we have a dual mix of native seed mix on the base of it, and then we have a low-mow fescue on the slopes going down to it, and in both cases, we've put trees around it. We've also, you can see it up in this one as well, these are birches and these are evergreens. We've used evergreens to screen particular views of the building. These evergreens here, again, are mostly natives except for the western red cedars that we're using. And we're using them to help buffer any potential views of the parking lot from our neighbor's property. However, I should mention that there is a pretty significant stand of existing trees right here, but we wanted to layer it and make sure that we're keeping lights out from car lights from being seen. We're also, another kind of view that we wanted to buffer here was when you're at this, when you're at the intersection looking at the building, this corner is somewhat prominent, so we have an arc of evergreens there as well to sort of soften the building and mask it to the extent that we can. The other thing that's happening here that should be mentioned is that on our plans, probably the plans you have in front of you show a relocation of the existing raised beds and one of the sheds that were out there. On the plans you have, it's shown right here at the edge of the wetland that's right here. Kristen's comments on that were she was concerned about them that close to the wetlands, so we've now moved them over to the other side of the park. So it's the pickleball courts are right here, and they're right here. This rendering, the outside areas, outside landscape has been masked so that we're putting graphically, so that we're putting the emphasis on what exactly the changes to the plan are. So our work here and here is sort of as tightly dropped into the existing landscape as we can get. We don't have a lot of fill slopes with the exception of the rain garden, and we're trying to minimize that impact as much as possible. Those are the major points of the landscape plan. Obviously, on the front face of the building, we're using more ornamentals, non-natives, but for the most part, we've tried to stay in a native palette for this because of the nature of the project. That's what I have to say. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
It doesn't explicitly spell this out in the wetland application, but there is obviously a mitigation package for the wetland impacts, primarily a donation to the ARM fund, the state fund for aquatic resources mitigation. I believe the amount is $152,000 and change. Does that ring a bell? We're also looking at a conservation easement on another parcel of Riverwoods land. It's across the street over here. It abuts land that CELT controls via an easement, and that is about 3.53 acres. It's upland and wetland. It does have a small farm pond as well, so it's kind of nice, actually. It's forest and field, so that's going to go into conservation as well. Robbie alluded to, let me go back a few sheets here. Come on. I keep pressing the button. Okay. Actually, it might have been you, Brandon. A restoration area in here. This is the driveway to this house. That was put in when the ridge went in, I believe in 2003. DOT made us move it because it was too close to the intersection. And we obviously no longer need it. So we're looking to pull that pavement out, loam it, and seed it, as well as remove the driveway culvert here to restore that hydrology. There's a temporary wetland impact associated with that. We need to pull out some of the riprap. So right now we just have grass seed on there. So if you guys are looking for some additional buffer plantings, I think Robbie could entertain that on her plan if that's something you guys would like us to look into. But other than that, I think that's it for our presentation. So if you guys have any questions, we're here.
Question about your porous pavement on part of the project?
Yes.
And so where is that?
And it's this green hatched area right here, right in front of the building. And we chose that because it's low intensity for traffic, so it's not going to get damaged very easily. And it also takes primarily roof runoff, so there's nothing dirty going into there, which is pretty nice. And it does meet the recharge requirements of the town and the state. Riverwoods has porous pavement now at their Durham campus, so they know full well the maintenance requirements of it, so they'll be able to handle it. They're not newbies to this stuff.
And so it wouldn't be like the parking spaces?
It's these parking spaces.
Up, but down below, I mean.
Yeah, down here isn't really a good spot for us. I don't want to introduce water behind the retaining wall. Okay. And then up in here is in a cut, and the soils on the site are pretty bad, so it's not really going to work from an infiltration standpoint. It's just water going to go in, it's going to come out again. So.
What about the rest of the pavement? Is there an opportunity for forest?
Everything else is standard duty because of the traffic. We take trucks here, tractor trailers, and of course the fire department might have to come in every now and again. White Oak Drive is used pretty heavily by the residents who live there, so it's really not going to stand up to the beating, unfortunately.
Is there any porous now or none?
No, nothing. Yeah, the only stormwater treatment for the existing site around Campus Crossing, there's a swale at the perimeter of the parking lot, and that's it. So there's no pond, there's no rain garden, there's no anything. As far as I'm aware.
The area in front of the park.
That's right. There's a small rain garden in front of Gooch Park. Thank you for reminding me. Yep.
I have a question just about, we're looking at avoidance and minimization of wetland impacts and this design. It seems like there's been a lot of effort that's gone into it related to the buffer. The 100-foot property boundary setback was a major issue that is constrained. That I guess I'm a little concerned though that essentially now is forcing you to impact certain wetlands and wetland buffers that you might not have otherwise. Do I get that sense that the project is sort of pushed down on this view, which I guess is east?
Let me move back a few.
I guess I'm particularly concerned about the parking lot extending down into that last wetland in the bottom of the page there. And
yep.
It seems like there's could that parking lot be minimized to avoid those direct wetland impacts, or put parking somewhere else, like at the top of the other side of the facility? But I mean, I think the answer is that it can't exist Because it would infringe on the 100-foot buffer.
The 100-foot buffer drove a lot of this, and we, as I mentioned earlier, we tried to push that envelope aside. Originally, we did have parking that stayed out of this wetland, but we do have certain needs for parking. In fact, Riverwoods is working through what they anticipate their staffing to be. We only have 6 extra spaces on this, 5 of which are already ADA spaces. So we're pretty much exactly where we need to be in terms of parking. We don't have a lot to give away, which is not where I want to be. I'd rather have, honestly, for me, and knowing Riverwoods, they need parking. I'd rather have more, but this is as reduced as I think we can reasonably get it. As far as the wetland impacts themselves, due to the 100-foot buffer and the gas easement, and the fact the rest of the site's already in conservation or developed, this particular site is really the only place for this facility. So I think these wetlands were going to get impacted no matter what plan we came up with. It's kind of unfortunate. I can't like tweak the building or tweak the site. Normally on a site, you've got plenty of room and you can sort of snake the road around and miss the wetland. We don't have that opportunity here, unfortunately.
Yeah, I guess I'm just looking at that area. Maybe it's still in the buffer, but it could avoid some direct impact by the dog park.
Over here?
Closer to Jollyland. Yeah, and up north, but you would then, I'm just saying you would then cross into that 100-foot zone. But
exactly.
So that's frustrating. So it's ZBA said, no, you can't do anything within.
That's correct. That variance was denied, as well as a height variance.
And what was the reason? I'm just curious why.
I think, do you want to address that?
Or is that a legal thing?
It's a legal question, so I'm going to give it to the attorney.
Nest here.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, members of the board, my name is Sharon Summers. I've been involved representing Riverwoods on the permitting side, including in front of the ZBA and the planning board. You raise an excellent point in the sense that the design that we've struggled with really is driven by a number of constraints. One is which is the conservation restrictions, which cover a vast area, the 100-foot buffer, which is imposed by the zoning ordinance, and also the action taken by the ZBA to deny us permission to encroach in that 100-foot buffer. In answer to your question, when we were before the ZBA, they denied our request to encroach in that, that buffer area, which would have, and Eric can correct me if I'm wrong, but that would have minimized somewhat the impact of the wetlands. The ZBA's rationale with that is that they just felt that the purpose of the buffer really was sacrosanct. They did not want to have that approach any of the abutting properties, and that was pretty much the extent of what they came up with. We obviously disagreed with that position, but ultimately determined that it was in the best interest to simply redesign it in reflection of that denial of the variance. For all other purposes, however, we do comply with the zoning ordinance. This is a permitted use and the dimensional requirements are conforming. So what we are left with then is these constraints, some of which are imposed by regulatory things and some of which are imposed by the conservation restrictions.
Okay, that's helpful.
So maybe you already said this, but is it right to think that, I mean, based on the maps and everything, so you're just losing total wetland from this area, and then there was some proposed compromise with the property that's nearby?
Yes, it's 3.5 acres. It's a mix of upland and wetland, forest and field. I can get the breakdown for you of upland wetland. I don't know it off the top of my head, but it's probably about 50-50. So it's maybe about, I call it an acre and a half. At least an acre of wetland preserved, without a doubt. And that is adjacent to Selt land. So that's good. So we're linking the lands there. I have it on another slide. It's not attached to this plan. So if you guys want to see it, I can put it up there. If not, it's up to you.
And so but just to be clear, that's land that Riverwoods currently owns.
Yes.
And it's just, there's no use for it, so it might as well
It is
conserve it as part of this project?
A chunk of it is upland, and we did look at it for parking.
Yeah, you looked at it as potential, but
Yeah, we looked at it as is it, could we put this site there?
Right.
That was our first thought. And then it was too much wet, and also the 100-foot buffers were a constraint. We looked at moving the dog park over there. We also talked about some additional housing for staff. All of these things, and the buffer in particular, conspired against us to really do much with it. We talked about moving the pickleball courts over there, actually. But in the end, we decided, let's put it in conservation to sort of help mitigate these buffer impacts. That's in addition to the ARM contribution. So this is mitigation at here, we're going here.
Yeah, you keep saying donation, it's just the mitigation fee.
It's mitigation fee,
is
yeah,
that-
donation to the ARM fund, yep.
Have you met with the state on that? Have they accepted the fee? Have they accepted the mitigation as land?
So we did actually pursue I think what you're referring to, we call a pre-application meeting, which we normally did for every project with impacts over 10,000 square feet, because that was the requirement in the rules, and that's typically what we'd be discussing. As a major part of that pre-application meeting is discussing mitigation. A couple of things changed in the last couple of years, or one just this year. One is that they've moved the in lieu fee program, which is the ARM fund, up to the top of the list, so to speak. Meaning that in their eyes, and a mitigation to pay proposal that uses the ARM fund is immediately accepted. Of course, we still endeavor to do things with the town, because this has always been sort of a classic point of contention, to be perfectly honest. And I'm glad to see that we've done that here as well. The second thing, and this might be a bit of a policy change, which could be reflected in the rules soon. I'm not quite sure, but I'm told that they are moving away from pre-application meetings when the proposal for mitigation is in lieu fee, is ARM fund. And that's what we were told here.
I thought there was a provision for the ARM money to go to the town if there was a shovel-ready mitigation project.
Yes, the process used to be, and this is what I mean by it moved to the top of the list, there was, in the rules, and I think this just changed this spring, the rules required us to first talk with the municipality about what they would call permittee responsible mitigation. And that would be, most often that was land preservation. Could also be things like culvert upgrades,
Dam.
any range of things, but all of those being quite difficult to get things to line up. And that, I'm sure we've probably been before you a number of times talking about that. So they've changed that process now, so that an applicant can just go directly to the ARM fund. That doesn't mean like I said, we still want to work with the town on doing things. And the cases, unfortunately for my clients, usually is that typically means they're going to do two mitigation packages.
So it's a preemptive money grab by the state.
It's always been a difficult topic. A lot of folks, I think, would think that, that ideally, money that went to the ARM fund could be earmarked in some way for the town and they'd get, first right of refusal or something like that. But we've been told also that the ARM fund, the in lieu fee mechanism, in which the Army Corps of Engineers, the federal folks are involved in too, that mechanism doesn't allow for, that kind of accounting. So it was never allowed. So what it comes down to is, used to be, whether your municipality had a shovel-ready, appropriate project that we could use. And that was rarely the case. It's been done, but I think that they recognize.
In other words, that option's gone.
That option is, well, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, it wasn't. What's changed is it's not a requirement anymore to give the municipalities the first crack at mitigation.
But who makes that determination? The donor or the state?
Well, it's the state. It's in the rules now.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so it has effectively gone away. Yes.
The requirement's gone away. You requesting mitigation from an applicant above and beyond, or potentially as part of. For instance, if we wanted to try to get credit for the 3 acres that Eric was discussing, there'd be a bunch more steps, and we could potentially get some credit for that in the state mitigation package, particularly if CELT accepts that into the existing easements.
Okay.
But yeah, the requirements have changed.
All right.
Sorry for that rabbit hole. I apologize on that one. But that was the crux of my question. If the state has accepted it, but it looks like you guys are still working with CELT to see if they'll accept it.
No, that's the line.
The land, yeah.
Not the money.
Yeah, the rules are literally written now to say if an applicant proposes a payment to the ARM fund, that is acceptable mitigation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a point of clarification? So you're talking about this 3.5 acre parcel for conservation. What are the restrictions that Riverwoods is envisioning, and how would that be protected? Is it a deed restriction that would be recorded, a conservation easement to another entity, or what's?
Ideally, it'd be an easement held by CELT. That's the target, and language acceptable to CELT. If not, it would be a deed restriction. Or if the town wanted to take it over as well, we could deed a conservation easement to the town. It's whatever mechanism works. I did reach out to Brian Hart and haven't heard back from him. So I'm not sure what CELT's interest is, but I don't see why they would walk away from this, because it does abut their other land and it's pretty close to the river. So I would think that they would take it. So that's option number one. Option number two, obviously, would be a deed restriction. So I don't know if you guys yourselves want to take it over, probably not, but we do have experience. Sharon has more experience with this.
Well, I was just going to add, and Kristen and actually the other members of the board too may remember a few years ago, we implemented a conservation restriction on the northern portion of the property, and that was a requirement from the Conservation Commission from ages ago, which just was never implemented because no one would come forward and actually take the conservation easement. So what we worked out was an arrangement whereby there is a huge chunk of the land on the northern side of the property, which is subject to the conservation restriction, and shame on me, I did not look at the provisions of that before coming over here tonight, but we could certainly look at those carefully and possibly, if we have to do a conservation restriction again, because we can't find anyone to hold the property as an easement, we could pattern the restriction language probably along the same lines as we did a couple of years ago. And if I'm remembering correctly too, the town has enforcement authority on that restriction, by both the restriction itself and by statute. So I think we could possibly, as Eric said, ideally, we find somebody to hold the easement. But in the event that that's not a possibility, I think we could use the other restriction that was done in the last couple of years as kind of a template as to what to do here.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of where my brain was headed. I don't want to find ourselves in a similar situation where we don't have a condition of this approval requiring recording of a deed and it just sort of happens to slip by. And I'm not saying that that's intentional. I just worry that, you know, when you get to the stage of implementation, your priorities are in a different spot.
And I agree, and I don't want to have Riverwoods be in that position as well. And frankly, I'm going to be retiring soon, and I don't want to get a phone call about this 5 years from now. So I'm with you 100%.
So I guess I would advise the commission to include that as part of your recommended conditions of approval. And I can try to work on some language here to provide you with when you get there, should you get there.
Krista, would you recommend both land and arm part of it then?
The arm mitigation is required for them to get their state permit. So I feel like there's enough legal assurances in place.
Okay.
The conservation land is sort of supplemental too.
Okay.
Yep.
And so it's a little less secure.
Yeah, I would hope and imagine SELT would be interested in this property, and it could maybe have similar similar language.
Yeah, that's what I expect.
And it just becomes a bigger part of their existing trail network out there that runs through the woods, which is a nice property.
Anybody else?
Does anyone have the map and lot already of that parcel?
It's on the same parcel as this. It's map 97 lots.
Oh, so it's...
It's on, yeah, it's all one big piece.
It's all one big piece.
I should
So
know
it
this
hasn't
off the
been
top of my
split
head. Map 97, lot 23.
Yep.
Yep.
I do think you had a plan.
I have it on a separate slide. If you want, you want to plug it in?
No.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
That's all the land they own, so it's like over here. It's this. So those are like I think it's just there another one. Yeah.
That way.
Oh, it's way road. Never mind. It's rotated like way rotated is, yeah.
All right, this is almost the entire Riverwoods parcel, 205 acres.
Yeah.
We've been talking about this site right here.
Correct.
All the other green all around it are the existing conservation easements and restrictions. The darker green is the 3.5 acres we're talking about here.
Okay.
So it's got a big chunk of upland right here, which is outside the 100-foot buffer. There's a little tiny pond right there, and then some more upland right in here. And the rest of it up here is wet meadow, and the back is forested. It's a nice little spot, actually.
Thank you.
For reference, this is the back of the former Grunell parcel, if that means anything. It means stuff to us because we've been working with these pieces of land for a long time. So, but Krista knows what we're talking about.
Anyone else?
What was in that part that you were suggesting? So you're losing a quarter of an acre of wetland or something. It's not a huge amount, really.
No, it's not.
But one concern I always have is how much the low-lying areas tend to get eliminated and raised one at a time, bit by bit.
Yep.
And then you have a highway So no animals or anything's making it across there, turtle roadkill, right? So, and how much wetland is in that parcel, if any?
In the conservation parcel, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't have the exact breakdown, but it looks like it's about 50-50-ish. I didn't count.
More wetland that would get preserved there?
Oh, there's definitely wetlands going to be preserved there, without a doubt.
Well, more than what you're losing.
More than what we're losing, absolutely. Yeah.
Just flew past by accident. Sorry, I might not have been paying attention. The restoration of the driveway, you were just ripping that up, just seeing and loaming.
Yeah, that's the plan right now. If you guys want supplemental plantings, we could take that under advisement, and I'm sure Robbie can come up with something that's nice and native and sort of give it a head start. Other than that, it would just be a conservation seed mix, and it would just come up and supersede eventually by itself.
It looked like from your plan that a lot of these grass and stuff is not like lawn per se, it's tall grass.
Actually, an adjustment to the plan this week, actually, along the west side of the building towards, where we were calling out long grasses because I had assumed that the construction activities would be more far-reaching than they are. And so when we actually thought through our limit of construction right here, on your plan, it says it has about, I don't know, 25 to 30 feet of long grasses that you mow twice a year. I believe it has said it on there. Now, we've determined that the limit of construction can be right here, so everything beyond that is now existing vegetation to remain undisturbed, which was a nice bonus on really sort of drilling down on what was going on this plan. Out front, obviously, there's the meadows. We've got the grass mixes in the rain gardens, but the area directly inside the road is all lawn. Obviously, the park is lawn, but all of this area through here is all existing vegetation. All of this is existing vegetation. All of this is existing vegetation. That's the kind of the merit of using this screened out graphic here, is that you can see where the actual development is, and we were pretty tight on all our edges to the building in terms of what's landscape, what's lawn, and what's not natural.
Does Riverwoods use fertilizer, I assume?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Does Riverwoods use fertilizer?
I would believe they do, certainly not in the wetland buffers, but certainly on their ornamental plantings around the buildings. And I would guess when they do, and this is a guess, but I can confirm that they would use slow release as well.
On this restoration, though, of the driveway, which isn't quite on this figure, do we know, are there invasive species around there?
Oh, yeah.
Because,
well, there's invasive species all over the site, you know that.
Like one risk of you're now gonna create an area if we just, I don't know, if you just put grass down and there's bittersweet all adjacent to it, now all of a sudden you're not mowing it, are you gonna create this corridor where invasives could just take over quickly?
Well, regardless, when we take that driveway out, we got to put something in there, right?
Right.
So if we put a conservation mix in there, that's one thing, but we're going to let it, we could plant it, but the invasives will go anyways. Neither of those things is going to, whether we did it in all shrubs or if we did it in all conservation mix, we're going to get invasives. It's the nature of the beast these days. It's horrifying, but I think the conservation mix if you get good catch, if you get a good solid cover, it'll keep it down for a while, but it will happen.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I missed that part of the sidewalk.
Well, we didn't walk down the driveway. We just talked about it.
We just talked about it.
Yeah. Okay.
We just talked about it. Okay. So, yeah, I guess I missed that part of the sidewalk. So, well, we didn't walk down the driveway. We just talked about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any, I know there's some plant people on this commission. Dave and Keith, if you guys have any ideas here, you're holding back.
I think like Robbie said, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
It's,
Drew, are you asking in terms of additional plantings for restoration, or if
Yeah.
they're, I mean, Robbie, do you have thoughts?
I'm sorry, say it again.
For additional plantings in that restoration area?
I'd like to walk it and
Okay.
and get down there with an eye towards how much sun is there, what's there already. I would like, there's a lot of pines in there and some spruces, but it's mostly pines. If there's enough sunlight, that might be something to plant. I would still want to do the conservation mix underneath and then dot in evergreens as well. That would be my first thought. I do want to walk it and see, though.
I will say that Riverwood, Patty has been, I don't know her official title, but she's been, we walk the conservation easement with her. She's in charge of the grounds there and is very proactive about invasive management on the campus itself. And today on the site walk mentioned how she's kind of, looking forward to a lot of the invasive issues that she was trying to tackle here going away with some of the work that, and the additional plantings that are here, so.
well, the campus in general has always been well cared for.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyone else?
Kristen, did you come up with some wording for us?
I think so. And I'm just using the Grinnell parcel because I didn't catch the reference. But that a deed restriction or conservation easement for the 3.53 acre Grinnell parcel will be executed prior to the issuance of certificate of occupancy with conditions similar to the Southeast Land Trust or town-held easements.
Okay. I make that a motion. All those in favor?
Wait. What are we?
Are we adding that condition? That was your motion.
Well, yes,
That condition.
yeah, let's make that a
Yeah.
general condition
A general condition to
to the whole proposal.
the proposal, okay?
Yeah,
Well, we haven't said whether we're approving it.
I know.
Okay, all right,
But
excellent.
if we do approve,
I
if we
was
do approve it,
confused. Okay.
it's already going to be done.
Great, I vote yes.
Okay. How does everyone vote? Any opposed? Okay, all in favor is unanimous. Yep.
Who did not vote? Sorry, just so I have it accurate. Kyle and Sean.
I'm not activated.
Okay, I just wasn't sure.
Yeah. All right, and then, no. I guess I would propose that, I send a memo to the state indicating for the state wetland dredge and fill that we have reviewed this application and have no objection to the application as proposed. I think that can stand on its own, can it?
You're asking, do you want that condition on the state application memo?
We do, don't we?
It's up to you.
We can include it, sure. All right. Well, whatever it was that Kristen just rattled off.
Condition one.
Okay, we'll call it condition 1. Will be included with a memo to the state indicating we have reviewed this application and have no objection to the application.
Matt?
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. And then the second one is the town wetland conditional use permit. The motion would be to send a memo to the planning board indicating that we have reviewed this application and have no objection to the application as proposed.
And include the condition. Is that right?
That they should include the condition on any.
Yeah.
I think that's
Condition 1.
where it stands. the
So
best
it's over
chance.
line. With both conditions of approval, okay. So we'll do condition 1 in addition to that motion. Yes. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm always
You're just calling them out on
I stole some of your.
It's gonna,
Yeah, no, I think that's fair the way we
I
did
only got
it.
it in there 3 times.
it's good. It's gonna happen.
I know.
That's
I think it's the planning board.
I
Draft it.
Yeah,
I don't know what the state would do.
I take too many things, I'm crazy. All right, next. We have an expenditure request. ERLAC, volunteer annual dues of $200. Anything to add to that, Kristen, or no?
We did receive the annual report from ERLAC. They, last year I was contacted by Teresa Walker, and they had increased dues to $200. They had initially asked us for $200 contribution last year, but we didn't get that request in time for the budget proposal, so we went with our standard $150. So this reflects $50 additional dollars. I will say that I did again get a request after the budget submission, and they're looking for $350 next year. But at this stage, that's not in the budget request, the current budget request. So that was a bit of a tangent for the current year. But $200 is an increase from what you've spent in the past. But as you know, SRLAC is responsible for taking a look at the state shoreland applications. They're one of the few, conservation-related voices on those applications. And
So they are now aware of our budget cycle?
yes.
Okay. So, we have a motion on that?
I'm just curious what what are their funding needs? Because there's volunteers on the board, right?
So
But they have staff, is there staff? No.
I don't have their budget in front of me, nor can I say that I've reviewed it, but I know they just updated, I think it was last year, the river management plan for the Exeter River in its entirety. And so I suspect it goes to that sort of thing. And then those recommendations are activities that they can implement. So there's probably funding contribution for the annual paddle that goes on and some other events like that. But I would be happy to get that from her for the next one if you like that. And it's It's a voluntary due, not due, we don't typically have to pay it until the end of December. So if you would rather see that before you approve the funds, that's fine too. I can get you that for next month.
Sounds like it's cheap money for what they did.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I was just mostly curious, particularly if they're raising significantly there the last 2 years, some idea of why is relevant.
A vacation home.
Yeah. But I'll motion that we approve $200 for Exeter Lake.
We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
I just have a quick question on that. Do they have like a regional planning member on that board?
Well,
They're not
to-
associated with the town. They don't have like a town staff member.
That's right. They're not associated with the town of Exeter. Exeter does have a representative on there. We used to have several, but Don Clement is our representative on the board. Teresa Walker works for Rockingham Planning Commission,
I just
so,
remember last time I went there, it was like above Rockingham Planning.
Yeah.
So I didn't know.
yeah.
That was just curiosity.
Yeah.
All right. Next, under property management, I know Kristen had one small issue that arose today that I think has been dealt with as far as the road trail.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to do that under correspondence, but I'll happily do it here. I had a phone call from a person who lives on Deer Haven Road, which is near Dogtown Road and off of Brentwood Road, if you know roughly where I am. They were concerned because they had seen some people passing through the town-held conservation land off of Deer Haven and continuing into the woods, and they were hearing chainsawing, and it looked to them to be some sort of trail building effort. I reached out to through a series of avenues, but I spoke with the property owner for, it's like 100-acre parcel behind there. I spoke with them today, and they did give permission for someone to build trails on their property. There might be some civil dispute as to who has authority to give permission and what sort of level of permission was granted, but from my perspective, that's not related to the commission. That's just sort of a civil matter for them to work out. Brian Stinson, who's the property owner, has the contact and has been in communication with the abutters as well as the person he originally gave the permission to. The Deer Haven resident did mention that there may have been, I was not able to confirm it today, but that there was a trail that connected to Deer Haven Drive on the town-owned conservation land. If we find that to be the case, as you know, new trails on conservation land require the Conservation Commission's approval. That hasn't happened, so it would need your approval to make that happen. We approached putting a trail in on that property and some of the surrounding to connect to the Riverwoods trails, in fact, well over a decade ago, and it was met with some resistance, so that plan was sort of abandoned. But should there be a trail, I would anticipate that should either be abandoned and restored, or permission should be granted for it in one way or another. And I'd be happy to go and take a look, but it sounds like you might be familiar with.
I've already been assured that it's not going to be utilized in the future.
Okay. Yeah.
So, maybe take a look, and if we think some remediation needs to take place from them moving materials in there, I know they do it in a second.
Okay.
So they want to keep good relationships too.
Okay.
All right. That was one item under property management. Anything else, Kristen?
Yes, but I believe I left it at my desk. I had printed out some amazing photos from Rain's farm. Rain's barn. Keith has been, I don't know if you want to talk about what you're doing in the basement or if you're comfortable with me talking about it here. Oh, I put it on a thumb drive. Sorry, never mind. I'll bring it up. But why don't you start it and I'll bring the photos.
Okay. Tell us about yourself.
So the basement of the barn had a lot of cement debris, and it was kind of unnavigable on the east end. And so we broke some of that up and removed it, and sort of just, there was a granite post laying there, made that part of the manure removal trench, and then filled it in with a little bit of the rubble and covered it all with bluestone, and did the same in any wet, disturbed area. That was how it looked. And there's the granite column laying there. So just moved stuff around to make it navigable, and it's pretty much, as well as cleaned it up, it's pretty much ready for the public, really, underneath, anyway. So it could use a little more cleaning.
Yeah. I was going to tell you that time this week.
Yeah. So anybody that's interested in that, do a little bit more of that, but it's really shaping up, and I think the people will be pleased to take a tour of it. It's pretty fascinating how it all worked. We're trying to sort of figure it out by, looking at what I know, a little bit that I know, and then talking with Stephen, who knows more, and sort of figuring out like where the chains went, where the cows went, how the milking was done, and we were able to clear a bunch of dirt and debris and figure out that they, walked up on steps and were closed into a little spot 4 at a time, and then milked in their route that they went around, and the whole paddle system for the removal of the manure. It's pretty fascinating. And now it's pretty clear as to how it all worked. I don't have all the details. I'd like to talk to Kathy Norton about that, and try to understand, because she saw it in operation, what actually happened, to get all the details. So it's pretty cool.
Have you investigated whether the Historical Society would have any old photos of that milking?
I have not. I think that would be a great idea.
Because if you had some photos of how the milking parlor used to operate, if we could get reproductions of those.
Yeah, to hang in there. But now it's all, you can walk in there, and so what I would recommend, going forward is it's well lit in the center. The electrician from the town came and replaced the regular fluorescent bulbs with LED, so the lighting is much better down there, but it's only in the center. So on both sides, you've got a third that's kind of dark and another third that's really dark. And so it'd be nice to run another set down there so you can see the whole thing. If that's something that people had an appetite for. I don't think that would be a huge amount of money. I think it could be done off of the junction boxes that exist electrically. I think that would be good. So there's a lot of opportunities down there for doing minor things that would improve it, but I think the ball is rolling, so let's continue.
And then you and Nick wanted to put in a budget request for a herd of cows?
Yes,
just
indeed.
Utilize them?
Nick was going to tend to them daily. I'm gonna, yes.
Well, we want to make it like, Williamsburg.
Yeah, all that stuff.
I love it.
Yeah.
And you go to milk cows, show the people. Not for it.
Put his kids to work.
But they're deteriorating as they connect.
Yeah, because the paddles don't work anymore. Your kids can shovel the trench out.
Start me on. Let's go.
Yeah. So it's coming along.
It's been a tremendous amount of work you've done.
It's been good. it's been a good time. I've had some help. Had a friend of mine, Bill, helped me. Steven's been great with the advice as to what to do. So one of the questions we had was, we were able to salvage a bunch of the paddles from the manure removal system on one side, and the other side probably filled in. There were 2 trenches, right? I feel like from a safety standpoint, as you come into the barn on either door, around the corner, whereas if the other trench is open and has the paddles displayed in it, coming around and looking at that, and it's very clear, is to not have to do one of these when you come in. So from and it's basically been disturbed greatly by putting in the drain system that went under the barn to mitigate the rot that was coming in from the Newfield side.
That's the side that's collapsing the most anyways, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's been all repaired, and it looks great, so.
But that trench isn't.
Yeah.
You can't visualize what it was as well as the other.
Right, I mean, you can, but it's just like there's not enough paddles to represent, you know, because they've deteriorated so much, the bars that held the paddles, et cetera, are just like come along. It's good.
So I can't pull the pictures up, unfortunately. They're that HEIC format, which is the live photo. But there are some on my phone, and if you want to see, in particular, the paddles, I think it's incredible to see them, you know, still.
Yeah,
he
so
cleaned it out
now.
in such a way that they're still attached to sort of the
Some of them
mechanism.
were put on place, but
Yeah.
then they had deteriorated sections of the main line. It's fascinating. I was able to figure out that it's 2 systems. It's like it was 2 systems, but fully that do the long trenches, and then the one that exits the buildings is separate system. So it's cool. That part still needs some work as well. It's very deep, like 3 times. So that one needs to be leveled out. Pretty. Steven's doing a great job. He's making good progress.
You mentioned the main floor cement. Do we want to talk about that?
Yeah, so there's a part that we're sort of waiting from L-Chip to hear. There's a cement floor in would be the western, front by the roadside corner, a room that has a cement floor that has a pretty good sized hole in it. It's very thin in spots, and it's falling through into the basement. So this was the location that they had thought would be a good spot for a stairwell from the 2nd floor to the basement. That cement needs to be jackhammered out of there, so we could put a stairwell there. And we're waiting to get permission from L-Chip, certainly. And doing that when that does come along.
Kristen, what would you anticipate L-Chip's turnaround time for?
So I did have a conversation with George Bourne. So here's the issue. When we receive funds from L-Chip, we need to sign a stewardship agreement with them, and that gives them authority over the barn. Like now we report annually for all the other grants that they had given to us for the repairs. So because we're in the middle of the stewardship agreement, it hasn't, or of the repairs, it hasn't been executed, but the project is in process, and so they have some authority over what we do in the barn. And my concern was repairs are one thing, so we continued to do clapboard repairs and painting on the other sides without L-Chip approval, but demo is different. And so when this was before my time, but when the milk room was demolished, there was a documentation process that had to happen. And so I wanted to be sure that before we did anything, we got L-Chip's blessing, because I didn't want to jeopardize the remainder. It's not much remaining from the grant. We're on to town money now, but I didn't want to jeopardize the approval of the final expenditure. I spoke with George. Thursday or Friday of last week. And he said, and I walked through, because this is getting more complicated than it needs to be, but any work that we need to do has to be documented in our historic structures report. And so any treatment we do moving forward, they will always refer back to that historic structures report and see how the significance of it was evaluated, what its former use was, whether it's a contributing factor to the history of the property, et cetera. And so I was able to, for this particular item, I was able to point George to the section where it talks about it was an original milking room, the early milking room when milking occurred upstairs. It was converted to this grain room, and that's why the hopper is there. All of that's in the report, and the report identified that it was deteriorated and should be removed. So, because when I initially talked to George, he was like, absolutely not, and we talked through where it was in the report. But because we're in this interim place, he wanted to talk to Paula Belmore, who's the director of LCHIP, to find out what sort of process that looks like. So I'm waiting to hear back from Paula.
So more than likely, it's all going to...
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a matter of process, what
right.
that looks like.
So in that case, Keith had indicated Stephen has offered to work with Doug to come up with an acceptable stair system to get down into the basement. And it would be nice to, since we do have the funds available, to get that design done. And even if we haven't got the approval yet, if we need to, before the end of the year, spend that money, spend it on the materials to build that staircase.
Okay, what money?
I thought,
Don't you have a little money left that you wanted to spend?
There was $300.
It's gone.
Remaining.
Tonight, right?
We did? Oh, no, that was
Separate?
separate. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
okay.
Well, 300 is 300.
yeah. Yeah, so Doug does not do designs for the town.
No.
We would need to bring
approval.
a design
Yeah,
to him.
Yeah.
We just got to
Yeah.
make sure it meets code.
Yeah,
Let's go
Yeah.
there.
he would
He's
want the
involved
project
as
to
code
meet.
enforcement.
Right.
Yeah. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know, yeah, sure. Whatever you want to do, whatever you
one more
want to do.
meeting.
We can continue the process anyway, because it looks like it's going to go through, so get him started on that. Start getting an idea of what's going to be necessary for materials.
Right.
And then maybe by next meeting, we'll have a final answer and can go for it.
Is that something you think would happen, maybe?
Yeah, my concern is I don't want the current project to be drug out further. I don't want to take Stephen's time away from getting the current project done, because we're on our second extension
Yeah.
to get this done.
Oh,
So can he do
wouldn't-
both?
He wouldn't be involved in constructing it.
I understand that. Yeah. Fine.
And I think
If all of that can happen, I'm totally on board.
Okay.
well, let's get an idea from him what kind of impact on what kind of time commitment it would take from him. Because he might say,
I agree.
I can do it in 30 minutes, you know?
Right. Or if it's going to take 3 days, that's different, right?
Right, we don't want to lose him for 3
No,
days.
right.
No.
I agree with that. He's making great progress, It's coming down that building pretty good.
Yeah,
So, okay, that sounds good to me.
all right?
Yeah.
So I'll confirm, I'm pretty sure it was I think I quoted the amount to you before. I think it was
Yeah, there's
300.
one for 3 and one for 4. What was the $400?
I don't know, I'll have to look again, but,
Okay.
Will LCHIP respond that quickly?
I don't know. So this is their crazy time because everyone has applied for grants and they're doing property walks. But George seemed pretty amenable and pretty responsive once I gave him the location of where all the documentation
Well, and you
was.
started the process a little while ago too, so it's not like you're going in the end of this week,
Right.
starting the
Right.
conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Just not to belabor reins, but I did file the paperwork for the second extension from LCHIP. Because it's our second extension, it requires Board of Director approval. So their Board of Directors are meeting, I think it's the 18th, to discuss it. George didn't anticipate any problems, but it does require their approval to make that happen.
Okay, outreach events. The Kyle Hike Challenge.
Like Exeter, I still have to coordinate with Kristen to just put the final touches on some of the descriptions, and that's been on me. I've been a little busy lately, but I'd like to get that soon. I'll get that to you.
Great.
And then start publicizing it. But Kristen's been super helpful. We've got the stickers in hand, and so ready to go.
All right. And then on Rains, on the 23rd of November, start time 6:46 a.m.
So that's a sunrise. I didn't have a start time. I didn't know what time you want. I think for the flyer I picked like
6:30.
6:30.
Yeah, we'll start at around 6 and get it going. And,
Keith and Nick want to stage some kind of pagan ritual.
so we did talk to the fire chief.
Yep.
And current conditions indicate it would be, to me, be unwise. So this is tentative based on some rain. And something, it's not, even this morning at sunrise, it wasn't windy like it got today. But, so that's the idea, is the humidity is at its highest level at sunrise. And so, this the fire permit goes from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. We're hoping that we get some rain in the interim, and that we have morning, and we hope to go. I'm cautiously optimistic.
So we don't burn the barn to the ground.
Yeah, that's just,
So the fire chief just asked that the week of, he'll come or someone from the crew will go out on site and to inspect the site, and then we do a final check-in. I think it was the day before. So advertising wise, do we wait a bit? Do we put it out?
I think we could advertise it with a caveat that if it
Weather permitting.
Yeah, weather and conditions permitting.
So should we register?
For it to happen, or?
Well,
visible sunrise?
No, I mean, if it was cloudy or whatever, it still would be a sunrise fire, right?
Okay.
Like, it's obviously beautiful when it's sunny, but in layer of clouds is actually a better sunrise. So, partly cloudy is actually ideal.
Yeah. Makes it interesting.
But the whole premise is to get people interested, to get people out there, to have them take a look at the bottom of the barn, and say, and have some just some people come out and see what's going on. Talk about property.
Did you have a hand in this photo?
Who's driving?
Who's
driving?
It's a really nice photo.
My wife took that.
Why?
We went out there for sunrise. That's a sunrise photo.
Nice.
And during that first heavy frost. And that was very beautiful.
Okay, so we're advertising for 6 o'clock.
Well, the sunrise is 6:46. Come when you want, but I'll probably start at around 6:30, or whenever they want to come. Probably wrapped up by 9. Saturday. comments or input on any of that, anybody?
Do you have like a brush pile ready to go? Like
I was
stuff
going to do
you've cut?
pallets, because they're
Pallets?
pine typically, they burn quickly, and we can, you know, be done with it, and there's always a lot of pallets about to obtain.
Makes sense.
Easily transported, stackable. You know, they won't burn for. Fire suppression would be, you know, we're gonna bring some 5-gallon buckets of water.
I don't want to speak for Keith, but we did also kick around the idea of a winter solstice event in December.
Yes, I think that'd be a great idea. That happens to be at 4:19 a.m. That's probably a bit early for
Well-
some people, but perhaps we could do a sunrise on that one as well. Maybe even later, probably 7, guessing 7.
We could do a sunset.
Yeah, or sunset.
But I know we kicked around some ideas of maybe having like a time-lapse video of the sun rising and setting over the barn. I don't know.
It's
if
a great
Exeter-
place for both.
Yeah,
It
if
really
Exeter TV
is.
could help us with that, that would be huge. What else do we kick around? I mean, it doesn't have to be necessarily a sunrise event, but you know,
Yeah,
we
on
could
the
do
solstice
something.
would be good, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, open to ideas if anybody's got them. Maybe we can have our first planning meeting on the 23rd at 6 a.m.
You think I'm confused now? All right, other committee reports. Anything on the annual meeting, Kristen?
I don't know, Michelle,
I
did you
love
want
the
to
annual
mention
meeting.
what you
I love it.
attended? Oh.
I like the classes. I love the I take wetland, I just love the classes. I've always liked to take classes anyway. But I also think it's very good for networking. It just is so interesting to sit down with people and they say, where do you live and what's going on in your town? And then they're telling you what their issues they're running into. And I'm going to be talking with Kristen about this, but I think further on, maybe the beginning of next year, I think we should talk about the land use change tax. Because they had charts to show you what other towns are doing or what they're obtaining, what they're getting from the land use change tax. It goes right into the coffers of the, and
Yes.
where Exeter does it.
In Stratham, we always did.
Pardon?
In Stratham, we always did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's something I've been researching it, getting some more information. I talked to Janet in assessing today and got how much land we have still in current use and that type of thing. So I think this is maybe something probably for, next year to put on the warrant, but we won't have time this year. But it's something I think to start looking. I have a couple of ideas for next year to start working on. That came up from that meeting.
Yep.
So it was very, very good.
I know I looked into that at one point too, and it does seem like there's an opportunity that could be good. I know there's a reason why we don't have it, and I'm maybe not the best person to explain why we are here today not getting that revenue. But I think it had to do with the town forest and how that funding associated with that. But it certainly is worth bringing up again and what makes sense going forward. And I never actually asked assessing about how much actual land is in current use now.
It's about 23%, 2,700.
Oh, still that much?
Yeah.
Right.
We talked about that, but we wanted money faster. had more city.
Yeah.
So we had warrant articles for 50,000 to 100,000, right up to buying the Rains property. Just for that idea.
Yeah, a lot of people do both, you know. An article for bonds, but, and then they also, the land use tax change.
That was, so NHACC recently, this year, updated the map
Yeah.
statewide, so you can see what percent different towns contribute of their land use change tax to the conservation. Eye-opening, because, you know, to contribute nothing to the conservation fund is pretty rare state.
Now might be a good opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, it varies percentage-wise. I mean, there's a lot of towns, you'd be surprised, get 100%. They get, well, between 90 and 100%.
No, we did. Stratham was 100%.
Yeah, is it 100? And then it goes down, 75 to 80, it goes down, but
I think the key for something like that is, it makes sense to us, is structuring an argument that's going to make sense to people voting on a warrant article.
well, our master plan says our natural resources are very important in this. That was a huge take from our master plan. And I think it's really something, I think people.
I'm not saying it can't be done, I'm just saying that.
I think they
The
would
messaging
be
is going to be.
willing to do
does
it, to be honest.
And it does come up, so every year when I present the budget, the Conservation Commission's budget, it comes up, they're kind of wondering, what is the long-term plan of the commission? What I had said this year was, we sort of had a conservation project in the hopper, and so we didn't pursue the $50,000 contribution that we had done historically. But just so you know, that is on the minds of the budget committee. My understanding was, and maybe I'm wrong, that it went before the voters and was denied. I remember that from Dawn, but I can look into that.
Yeah, I remember Dawn telling a whole story about why it is the way it is.
But even this year, so they would be looking, possibly wondering why we don't have want to put something in the warrant.
Or because we didn't put it in a warrant. Yeah, we were
Because
going
we
to.
were thinking, we were waiting for
Yeah.
the other property, yeah.
I feel like the ship has sort of sailed.
Yeah, sailed on that, yeah.
Personally.
Have you figured out what it would have been, how much money we'd have gotten?
No, I haven't.
I think you had done that, right, Drew? One year, someone had calculated.
Yeah, you can look in each annual report, it's listed what we got, and there's one of the forms.
Yes.
Puts it there.
Yeah, 'cause I was
And so
looking at
I might be able to find it somewhere
There's
where I
some-
just
yeah,
went through a bunch of annual reports and
Because there's some
pulled it out.
state forms too.
In some years it's zero, and there's a few bigger years where it's, 20,000 or something like that.
Yeah, it fluctuates hugely.
But it can be, I forget the exact numbers. But yeah, I think the town has certainly shown that it's interested in conservation, and prioritizing that in town meeting day, so.
So since it is no longer November 10th, do we have anything to discuss about pumpkin composting?
Oh, no, that was really just
done,
there, so
yeah.
you saw the flyer.
Okay.
Or the public saw the flyer, should they get it?
We've got the New Hampshire Saves button-up workshop at Exeter Library.
So November 19th, from 6 to 7:30, there's a presentation at the Exeter Public Library, and they are talking all things weatherization for your homes. So we'll learn about what kind of funding is available, what sort of incentives are there, et cetera. Snacks will be provided by energy.
And And we've got the window dressers, window insert ordering deadline.
At the end of November is the ordering deadline, the soft ordering deadline, and then the build, which we will be seeking volunteers for. So if you do have leaky windows, it's a great way to save some money. If you're interested in volunteering, we'll also be looking for volunteers during the January build, which is.
What kind of response has there been so far?
I think we have, our goal is 200 inserts, we have 170 something.
Oh, that many?
170 something requested, then you go to the homes and measure. Not all of the windows can accommodate it because they're not square enough or whatever. They think, they historically show about a 50% back rate of people like changing their mind or not following through with it. So if there was 170 requested, our goal was for the number requested 400.
Even if it's 100, it's a good start for the first year and kind of learn.
Yeah, and it's been really rewarding. A lot of people, so financially you don't have to be on assistance or anything, but if you can't afford the window inserts, they have grant programs that help offset the cost. So if you can only pay $50 for your inserts, you just tell the measurements that. So it's been really rewarding to hear people reach out kind of tentatively saying, I'm really confused these, but I can't afford what it might be, and I'm nervous about the cost, and, they can get them.
That's
good.
Yeah.
And could substantially.
All right, we have some minutes to approve. We also have minutes from September that we tabled.
Oh, yeah, we didn't do them.
That we will be discussing next month. The minutes from October 8th. Is everybody taking a look at them? Anybody have any?
No. I haven't.
Well, you were injured, so.
No, not last month. But
Well, you
I was at the
you were
meeting.
convalescent.
Yeah, that's fair. So they look great.
Was
I
that
think that we had to
last
take
All right, since they've been carefully reviewed, do we have a motion?
switch Nick in.
I'll abstain from this one?
I did read them and they look fine to me. So I guess I'll make a motion to approve the October 8th minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain.
Opposed? None? Passed unanimously. And our next meeting.
And when they were your first one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just a heads up, I did receive an email from David O'Hearn. He's the person that we contract with for our field mowing. He's retiring this year, so
I was wondering about that the other day.
available to do it. He's been an incredible resource for us, both stewardship-wise and technical advice-wise. So I'm sad to see him go, but I'm happy that he's, in retirement.
Well, he's probably just going to concentrate on his farm, right? I would imagine.
Maybe, can he recommend anybody?
He did say he's checked around with some of the people that he knows, and he'll forward some names should he have them. I was planning to do an RFP for mowing again anyway, because every couple of years we need to do that to be sure we're going to have past David's been the only one to submit, so there's no. I know Kevin Green, who's on the tree committee, I believe he purchased some equipment to do that, so he might be a resource.
Our next meeting is December 10th, with the submission deadline of December 2nd. And with that, take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I guess I made a motion to adjourn. Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimously. Meeting is adjourned.
Thought we didn't need
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.